Hello and welcome to 6 Degrees of Feature Film. I am Mjolnir, also known as Brienne, also known as Miss Movies.
And I am the Rainbow Road from
Yes,
Thor. Is that the official title?
sure, it could
Yeah.
be the Rainbow Road. I just think of Mario Brothers. I was like, this is great homage. Mario Kart.
Yep, Mario Kart. Also known as TC Howard, co-host of this show. Brian, what do we do on this show?
What we do on this show is we take one film and we show how 6 other films link up to it in some random way, shape, or form. So it is called 6 Degrees of Feature Film. And we talk about 7 total films. Funny how that works out. Then we link it to Kevin Bacon because we like Kevin Bacon and 6 Degrees of Feature Film, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
There you
And
go.
then Stacy does an impression of Rocky based on our feature film. And our feature film today is Thor. But
Yes.
before we get into Thor, what's going on? That was a big breath.
Oh, let's see what's going on. Same as usual, stressed as
Mhm.
usual. I will tell you guys that I helped my boyfriend clean his apartment last night because he has someone from out of town coming to stay with him. And as we all know, men are typically helpless when it comes to cleaning and organizing.
Really?
We found
Is that true?
That's true. That's true.
My husband organizes a lot.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Well, then maybe it's just one man.
not all
Maybe it's just my
hashtag
one man.
not all men.
Hashtag not all men. But we found, and I'm not joking, $37 worth of change in his apartment. Whether it's on the ground, under cushions, in jars and old coat pockets and everything. $37 worth of change. And
Now-
not like big change, like dimes and pennies.
When you found this change, did you take it to Coinstar or
We
did
took
you?
it to
Oh, okay,
Coinstar.
okay. So they took a percentage.
Yeah, they
So
did.
was it 37 before they took their percentage out, or was it what?
I
happened?
think I don't know. I think it was $37 worth of coins, and then he went and cashed out. So maybe it was a little less.
Okay.
Not sure about that, but
Mm-hmm.
my boyfriend did guess before he left the house. He goes, "I think this has to be like $37 worth of change," and then he got there and it was like 37.09, like almost exactly. So I don't know if he's a coin counting savant.
He could be. Could be definitely a coin counting savant.
I don't know, but it was pretty crazy. And I looked at him like, you're like a supernatural being who knows how to count all this stuff. So that's what we did last night: coin counting and cleaning. What did you do?
That's amazing. What I did, not necessarily last night, but this morning, my daughter had quite the tantrum.
Oh,
Couldn't figure out what she wanted to draw. She had a piece of paper. She asked for a piece of paper. I gave it to her, and then just had a meltdown about what to draw.
it sounds like every Tuesday morning with me.
I had to just let her cry, and it was a long, long time. She's 6. Finally stopped crying halfway to school. So
she's just having a moment. She's having a morning.
I guess
That's
she's growing
how
up.
most adults are, except we keep it inside and we try and caffeinate it away.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, let's talk about.
All right.
I was just thinking about caffeinated away, thinking about Thor, thinking about the coffee cup that he broke in the movie. But let's get into Thor, which came out
I did that to you
right now. Performance art. Right now, May 6th, 2011 is when this came out, and I did not see it at that time. I first saw it maybe last week because I'm catching up on the comic book films that I have missed over the last few years. There was a period of my life from about 2011 to 2016-ish, 15, 16-ish, that like I didn't watch any films and was really depressed. So now I'm going back through and like
now you're with
filling
me.
those holes.
I've brought the light into your life.
You have.
I have. I knew that.
You are the sunshine of my life.
Dun, 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 dun. You know what? I only know that song because of Jarhead. Because
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, Jamie
He's
Foxx
singing it.
says,
Oh,
Wonder, you are
doing the trumpet.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
It's so funny, and they're all laughing. Jake
That was
Gyllenhaal.
great. That was great.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Anyway, so this is about powerful but arrogant god Thor is cast out of Asgard to live amongst humans in Midgard, which is what they call Earth, where he soon becomes one of their finest defenders. When he's cast down, he loses his powers. So that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, he loses everything, but he doesn't lose faith.
Himself.
He doesn't lose himself. He
Although
finds
he learns
himself
to be a better
eventually.
person
He
at the
does.
same time. He had to
does.
go through this in order to be the God that we know and love and want to reign over us, right?
He had to humble himself.
Hmm. He did.
Yes. Who's in this film?
This is directed by Kenneth Branagh and starring Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Tom Hiddleston, Stellan Skarsgård, Idris Elba, Kat Dennings, Renee Russo. This was like the first film she had done in like 6 years or
Really?
even longer than that, maybe. And I thought, welcome back. And Anthony Hopkins was Odin.
Anthony, what up, dog?
I really thought it was interesting. I read some trivia that it came down to Chris Hemsworth and Liam Hemsworth for Thor.
It's interesting that they would have even considered the younger brother because I feel like he's way too young. Or
exactly.
he would have been.
That's why I think he probably didn't get it because of that.
Yeah.
That would make him almost the youngest Avenger, I would think.
I think so.
I'm not sure.
He would have been like what, 21? Like he would have been so young.
Yeah.
In 2011. How old someone tell me what age would Liam Hemsworth would have been in 2011? Well, they probably were auditioning them in what, 2009?
Maybe.
Because you have to audition and start making the movie and it takes 2 years and blah blah blah, and it was released in 2011. So what age was Liam Hemsworth in 2009? Someone look that up for me, please, because I'm very curious.
Yeah, and no Ben today. That's why I'm wearing the headphones.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's off seeing Helen Mirren speak
Thank
at school.
God.
I told him to get her on this show, so she'll be here next week.
Oh yay, yay!
So we can talk to her about all things Fast and Furious franchise.
Please,
I'm very excited. Very excited about that.
I really. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead. You really what?
I was gonna talk about Loki in this, but let's talk about budget and then we'll talk about Loki.
Okay. This was made for 150 million, made 449.3 million at the box office.
Pretty good.
And it looks like Liam Hemsworth would have been 19.
Whoa,
that's way too young. That's just there's a reason, and he's also like smaller than Chris Hemsworth, but I know that Chris Hemsworth like bulked up for this, but
yeah,
at the same time I feel like just in general side by side stature he seems a bit smaller.
Yeah, I agree. He's a smaller man, but I feel like he's taller. Maybe, I don't know.
Smaller but taller. Maybe that's why.
Maybe.
Who knows?
He's not a grower,
Who knows?
you guys.
So tell me about Loki. First of all, I do want to say something about Loki real quick.
Okay.
I saw the Avengers before I saw this movie.
Me too.
So when I saw the Avengers, I thought Loki was just kind of this, like, there was nothing about him that I thought was scary. I thought he looked ridiculous. He had these crazy horns. And it's because I didn't have the background from this movie. Like, he is a terrible, terrible person in this movie. He's very frightening.
He's a piece of shit. Yeah.
And so because I didn't have that background, I didn't bring anything into the Avengers. And I was like, who's this? And why should I care? You know?
I take back what I just said, that he's a piece of shit. I sympathize, or is it empathize, with him a lot in this film. And I really liked his whole character arc. I mean, he is a young man who is jealous of his brother. He's just trying to, you know.
I mean, that's the common story of
common story of sibling and the second son. He's just trying to win his father's love and respect and admiration of his people, and he can't do it, and this drives him to betray everyone that he loves. But he's doing it because he feels like he just wants vindication. He just wants validation, you know?
Right.
And so I get everything that he's doing, and he's my favorite Marvel villain. There's not a whole lot of good ones to pick from, if we're being honest. But I find him very charismatic. I love Tom Hiddleston as an actor and as a person, and he really solidified himself as a hunky, like, not leading man, but angsty, And he's like a sexy,
Sure.
angsty teenager in this movie, and I'm very into it.
There was a Loki that was at Comic-Con that looked exactly like Tom Hiddleston,
I'm
and I
gonna
was
need a
like,
photo of
maybe it
this.
is Tom Hiddleston. Like, because sometimes
shows
people
up.
do that.
He shows up.
Sometimes celebrities do that. They dress up as their character,
Mhm.
and it's like, wait a second, like this guy really looked exactly like him. I was
I'm gonna
shocked.
need a photo of this.
Okay, well, I all you have is my memory. I
Okay.
can't
Okay.
take it out.
I bet
for
it's
you.
somewhere on the interwebs. Someone
Could
find
be.
it and tweet it to me at Stacey O. Howard. Thanks.
But I agree. Loki's
yeah.
probably one of the best villains. Now that I've seen this movie,
Mhm.
I agree with that statement. Before I
Yes.
would have been like, Loki's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But-
I never. Ooh.
Why do I keep going? Well, because you have a lot of jobs that have been happening.
That's true.
You have
There's
a lot of there's a lot of things going on in your life.
There's a
You're
lot that's
tired.
going on. I don't get a lot of sleep. Yeah, but I think that this was a good introduction and a solid film. It wasn't an incredible film, but it
Mhm.
was like you needed just a good old fashioned cheery origin story that was well made with a simple
Cheery.
story. Yeah, there's goofiness in it.
Sure. When
When
he's on Earth and
when he's on
trying to
Earth
figure
and-
things out.
Yeah, and they're doing like the Dutch angle,
Hmm.
you know, and like his little sidekicks show up and they're banging on the window like, hey, that's funny. That's funny. It's silly. It's goofy. It's got a
That's
little.
true.
It's got a little of that. Who brings the gravitas? Who brings the strength and the thespian quality? I would say is Anthony Hopkins.
Right.
He brought everything
yes.
to this film. He was like, "I'm Odin, bitch." He didn't say that maybe, but he was like large and in charge in this movie. It was very intimidating to me.
I feel like the one thing that dragged for me was the writing of Jane Foster, because I feel like she could have, I don't know, could have been a little more powerful,
Yeah.
more of a powerful woman character.
Mhm.
I like that she's a scientist and she knows
Mhm.
a lot of stuff, but at the same time, I felt like we only got to scratch the surface with her. And even I'm watching Thor: The Dark World, which I don't know when I'm going to finish, and it's already day 4, and I'm just trying to get through it. But things happen, people call from school and they're like, "Come pick up your son," and I was like, I can't. I've only watched 20 minutes of this movie. So
Did you leave him at school so you could finish the movie? Please tell me you did that.
No, I had
I
to go
would've.
get him.
Aw.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at. It's like, I don't know when I'm going to finish this. Is Jane going to be better in this film? I don't think so. I don't know. It's kind of like, I love Thor. Yay.
I'll tell you what, I really did love Loki in The Dark World
okay.
because I liked
There's an arc.
Yeah,
for
there's
him.
an arc. There's an arc.
I do like that he changed into Captain America because Captain America is
That
my
was
favorite.
great.
Actually, I think Chris Evans is my favorite. So by
Props.
proxy, Captain America.
You know, I rewatched The Winter Soldier last night.
Mhm.
It's still my favorite Marvel movie. God, it's so
It's
good.
good.
Oh, I
It is
love
good.
it. I love it.
One day we'll do that one. If
We
have
will.
it.
We will.
All right. A few things. Stan Lee claims that he'd always wanted to play Odin, but was happy with Sir Anthony Hopkins'
Mhm.
casting
Mhm.
and performance in the role.
Mhm.
I don't think that Stan Lee should be acting ever,
No.
aside from his little cameo one-liners.
What would he do as Odin?
I don't
How
know.
intimidated would Stan Lee be? Oh gosh, Thor, you gotta, you can't be doing this, son. Like he wouldn't be. I don't know. That was a terrible Stan Lee impression. I don't really know what he sounds like. But yeah, no, he would be terrible. Anthony is good in this.
I also like that Tom Hiddleston described the role of Loki as a comic book but nastier version of King Lear's Edmund.
Yes.
Because in the William Shakespeare play, Edmund was a prince who was jealous of his brother Edgar and tricked his father into banishing him into exile.
Mm-hmm.
I like that comparison.
Yes.
I like that we go to Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm. Very Shakespearean.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he also pulled from. Did he pull from some other movies? Oh, he pulled 3 different actors. He said Peter O'Toole, enigmatic, reckless persona. Jack Nicholson, edgy and turn page, near insane persona, and Clint Eastwood, persona with simmering anger.
Wait, he used those
He
as
used
like to
as
create
inspiration.
Loki?
Yes.
Got it. Got it. I
Yes.
do like how Laura said every line ends with Excelsior.
Yeah.
Kind of like how every line ends in yo for you.
Yo! Yo, you guys.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't like Natalie, or I didn't think Natalie Portman's character was interesting, and that was sad for me because I think Natalie Portman is a really interesting actress and brings a lot to every role she plays. So this, she was just kind of here.
Let's get into one of those roles that she plays.
Let's
so we're
do it.
linking Thor to Natalie Portman, other Natalie Portman featured films.
Okay.
If you want to go with yours first.
Sure. This is a movie that is on HBO right now, so I got the chance to see it finally from last year. Jackie, where she portrays First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy. Not in the main. It's a very specific time period that the film takes place in. It is the moment and the week that follows JFK's assassination.
Right.
And so it's her trying to solidify his legacy as well as her own so that they don't just fade into, forgotten nothingness. She wants him to be considered one of the great presidents, and she sees herself as the one to do this, not his advisors or the next president coming in or anybody else. She says, this is my responsibility. I am devastated by this loss, but I have to preserve history for him, so that he didn't die for nothing. So I thought, when I was looking at the trivia on this, it had a lot to say about the cinematography and the costumes and how it affected the film and the storytelling. So I just want to read a few of those. The challenge for the costume designer was the dark red two-piece wool dress that Jackie wore during her famous White House tour. So before, the American people had never seen the White House before. But Jackie was like, we're going to do like a CBS special and bring American television. Everyone can see from their homes our White House here, because she'd just done a huge restoration. So in order to kind of validate it, so that everyone wasn't like, why is she wasting all this money? She was like, no.
Just pictures.
Right.
They went to video. And I think it's interesting in the film how they did that, because they made it look exactly like it was, but they used the actual Jacqueline Kennedy's voice. They did. They used her voice.
Oh, okay.
That's why it changes a little bit. It's so fascinating to me, because that's where they like spliced her in.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that, because I know Natalie Portman worked a lot on the voice.
Yes.
Jackie had a very distinct voice. What did she say? It was
breathy. It's like if you went to cotillion, like people would teach you how to speak.
Yes, it was very. It was a little bit British, but very breathy. And she had a New York accent, and her dialect was an unusual combination that was very unique to her own. And so the voice that she used was, it was deep, but it was soft. So it wasn't like this like siren scream. She had to be a little. She couldn't be sexy. She had to be sophisticated with it. And so I can't even do her voice. She just had this really unique speaking voice.
It's so strange. It's interesting that people spoke differently. And we talked about this with Rosemary's Baby on last week's show, how Mia Farrow sounded differently.
That they pronounced everything. Everything. They had a very specific way of speaking. And I think
we probably should like work on that as a society.
We should,
but we don't have time. There's no time anymore.
There's no time. And I think it's because people are on television more, are on YouTube more, and Facebook Live or whatever. And so everyone hears each other's voices a lot more. So it used to be that only the few were granted a television or a film opportunity to speak. And so it's very distinctive from what their everyday voice was. But now everyone's on television. Everyone can be, a news reporter or a soap opera star or whatever. And so we sound just like normal people. There's no distinction really, because everyone can be on video. I don't know.
So the costume designer in this scene had a difficulty with this red.
Yeah, because it's in gray and white, or black and white, excuse me, in grays. And so she had to make a pink version of the costume to make the black and white look good. And then they had to do a red version.
Oh dear.
For when it's an actual movie, not the not the special within the movie, to make it look good. And they also did let's see, hold on. They tried to like soften her a little bit when she was like, obviously in her like depression and shock after that. And they wanted to really show that this woman was like in blood soaked clothes for like 2 days after her husband's
Yeah.
death. And so we see this pink suit, this iconic image, and the pillbox hat and everything. So then you had to see her like stripped down after that and try and like take off her pantyhose that had blood on it and was like crusted and stuck to her thing. And so you have this image, but they need to show it in a different light. So I thought that that was pretty interesting to like try and portray. It's not this iconic image, it's we need to see her stripped down from that, and I really liked that. Yeah. Okay.
Jackie is an interesting movie. It wasn't I wouldn't say it's an entertaining film, but I think it's interesting in terms of like the story. Um and just going through that, like what happens after this terrible event happens. There is a story there, and I'm glad that they told this story. But definitely has its dull moments.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because there's really no like climax, because the climax had already happened, and now we're seeing like
the
aftermath of that.
Yeah.
So
I thought that it was important that a foreign filmmaker made this because, and they talked about this a little bit in the trivia, was that us as Americans have a not idealized version of what happened, but we see it differently because it was our president, it was our first lady that they had romanticized their entire time in the White House and their family, and they were like the first family. They were like our royalty was like the Kennedys, basically. So when we look at this horrible, tragic event, almost like it's unreal.
She was like 30.
Yeah,
she was 32 young. Maybe at
she
the
was 32, and she had already lost 2 children during her time campaigning for the presidency and also in the White House. And I think she had a miscarriage like the first when they were moving in. So she was pregnant while he was campaigning. I think they won, and I think she had a miscarriage like the first few weeks she was in the White House. So she had buried 2 children, now her husband. And we almost look at the tale of the Kennedys like it's unreal, like it's too sad and too tragic to be heard of or seen or spoken about. But this foreign filmmaker comes in and he doesn't have this idealized version of the Kennedys. He doesn't look at them as American royalty. He's Chilean, I think. And so he had to look at this and say, how can I portray this as a real woman, not Jackie O, not the woman that we know, but how can we shed a different light on her and make her tangible, like how would we experience it? So I thought that it was interesting. They talked about how he's a foreign director, and that affected the film and the storytelling in it.
I thought Natalie Portman would have won the Oscar. I was a little surprised that Emma Stone did, but that's the way things go. That's life. Anyways, let's go on to another Natalie Portman movie. Now, last week we talked about Black Swan, so we're not talking about that this week.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about The Other Boleyn Girl. I mean, what other show are you going to be talking about? The Other Boleyn Girl? Probably no other show. It's just a show.
Yeah.
This came out February 29th, 2008. I did see this in theaters, about 2 sisters contending for the affection of King Henry. Let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8th. I have to do the Roman numerals individually. So it's VIII.
Because V is 5. And then 6, 7, 8.
8.
Unless the I is before, then you subtract it.
Yes.
So if it's V and I is before, you minus
4.
1, so it's
that's
4.
4.
Yeah. Or if it's like 10 with the 1 before, that's 9.
Yep.
Oh, we're so smart. You guys, we're so smart.
We are
it's like smart. You're a teacher or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
This is directed by Justin Chadwick and written by Peter Morgan, who did the screenplay, and Philippa Gregory, who did the novel. The budget was $35 million. It made $77.7 million at the box office. I didn't put who starred in this because, I'll just go off the top of my head, which was Scarlett Johansson, Natalie Portman, Eric Bana,
Jim Sturgis played the brother.
Sturgis, Mark Rylance, and that's pretty much all I remember. That's all I remember. There's some other people in there somewhere.
I really like this movie because I love period pieces.
Period pieces are pretty.
They are my
incredible.
My fave.
There's a lot happening in this. There's a lot of drama and a lot of truth and a lot of stretching of the truth.
Yes,
I will say. Anne Boleyn was like definitely someone that could make men do things for her, and we saw that in this film. And her So the other Boleyn girl, I'm assuming, is in reference to Scarlett Johansson. She is the other Boleyn girl.
Yes, she's the one that nobody knows about. She's the other one.
She's the
She's not
mistress.
Anne Boleyn.
Mm-hmm. The mistress who gets cast out.
Ah. Now, I remember because we've seen Anne Boleyn portrayed in a lot of different films and television shows. I was a big fan of The Tudors, so I really liked Natalie Dormer's version in that. In this one, I enjoyed Natalie Portman's performance because she did it in a very like fun, like seductive way. You could see that she was very manipulative with it and had to learn.
Right.
She learned to do that. She picked up some tricks in old Perry.
What do you mean she picked up some tricks?
She picks up some tricks because you see she's like hilarious. A young innocent girl, you know, or maybe not young and innocent, but she was different. But then she saw what was happening with her sister. She saw what was happening with these other women and said, I'm going to be different. I have to be distinctive. I have to set myself apart. So she went to France, learned some things, and came back.
Got it.
She learned how to play it hard to get.
Thank you for spelling it out for me. I like that Mark Rylance was very upset during filming because he felt that this was not true to history. And so he was like, nope, don't like this.
What's he doing in the film then? Did he not read the script?
Maybe he was just like, I'll sign on. I need a paycheck. You know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're filming this? Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's see. Anne Boleyn was hardly the quickly discarded failure that she is portrayed as. She had over 250 personal servants and a reputation as a lavish spender. Several important people were executed because they didn't like her. That's unfortunate.
That's super unfortunate. Imagine having that kind of power, though. That'd be great.
I can't imagine that power. I also like that the necklace, and I was questioning this, so I'm glad that this answered it for me. The necklace that Anne wears, the string of pearls with the bee and 3 teardrops, is the same necklace worn in Ugly Betty. So yes, it is the same. Wow. And I've been wondering that for years. I'm like, that is the other Boleyn girl necklace.
Why is she wearing the necklace?
Is no one else noticing this? Is she not going to actually admit it? She should say, like, I bought this necklace, like in Ugly Betty. I got this necklace because I saw it in the other Boleyn girl. Like, can we just reference that?
That would have been a great pop culture reference. And I think Anne Boleyn actually wore that kind of necklace because she has a photo or a painting.
Yes.
A painting with it on.
Yeah, that's good.
Guys, they had cameras back then. Did you know? There's Polaroids.
I totally forgot that Benedict Cumberbatch is also in this film.
I forgot that too. I'm going to need to watch this again.
You know what? I pulled some trivia about Benedict Cumberbatch, and it doesn't have anything to do with the other Boleyn girl. It just was under the same thing. And the reason I pulled it is because I was like, this could be used on the Schmodown sometimes. I should know this.
It could.
And it says Eddie Redmayne and Benedict Cumberbatch have both played Dr. Stephen Hawking. I was like, that does not have anything to do with the other Boleyn girl.
That's true. That's true. Also, Eric Bana and Benedict Cumberbatch would go on to play Star Trek villains in the reboots.
Yep, that was the other one that I put.
Oh, I stole it
from
you.
There you go. Oh, you saw it on my thing.
No. I have it on
Oh, you have it on yours. Congratulations.
You're
so
welcome.
That's why I was like, oh, I should probably keep that trivia so I remember it. Maybe through osmosis it'll.
Maybe.
Who knows? Anyways, there you go. The other Boleyn girl.
Yeah. And I did
it's something I need to rewatch.
Some good costume things on here because again, I love when people do this. It's the subtle details that you don't really notice, but it does subconsciously go into your brain. Natalie Portman and Scarlett Johansson say that their costumes were vital to knowing their character. Their dresses gave them good posture, and the colors helped represent their personalities. Anne's bold and simple colors show that she wants a main goal. Mary's softer and much more complicated dress designs show that she is a more modest person and tries to be herself.
Oh,
I love stuff like that. Yes.
That's nice. So we went from Thor, then we linked it to movies featuring Natalie Portman. I did the other Boleyn girl, and Stacey did Jackie. Off of Jackie, Stacey's going to link it to something. I don't know what that link is going to be, but when you hear the link, if you are in the chat, if you could give me some suggestions of what you think I should discuss, then I will pick that.
Yes. Okay. So I am going with films where the actress plays a famous woman of history.
Okay.
So it could be, obviously Jacqueline Kennedy is a famous woman of history. You could do, there's queens and princesses and, civil rights leaders and all kinds of stuff you could do. I, however, went with Elizabeth the Golden Age. This is starring Kate Blanchett, Jeffrey Rush, Samantha Morton, Abby Cornish, Rhys Ifans. Is that how you say his name?
Reese?
Rhys Ifans?
Mm-hmm.
A mature Queen Elizabeth endures multiple crises later in her reign, including court intrigues and assassination plot, the Spanish Armada, and romantic disappointments. So this is obviously a sequel to the first film, Elizabeth, that was in
Okay.
99. And then they did the sequel in 2008. So several years later. I believe it was the same director who, Shekhar Kapoor, who also directed New York, I Love You, and this and the previous one. And Kate Blanchett comes back as an older, more mature queen. She's more sure of herself. She knows what she wants, but she's dealing with a lot more serious issues. So this was obviously the Queen Elizabeth that we know of, and we saw portrayed in like Shakespeare in Love, and she's been in in a million other films. But this shows her in a very specific period in her life where she's an older, mature woman. She has lovers and relationships and ladies in waiting, and she has her own little world that she's doing, that she's ruling over. But then she has this war with Spain that's imminent, and a lot of pressure is going on. It reminded me of almost like Cover to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Like that's how they handled it, where they show her in like because the Spanish Armada is coming. You don't know what's going to happen. They show her in meetings with all of her advisors, and she is kind of into like astrology and everything. So she's going to this man trying to decide what to do, and they show her in like a crisis of faith, a crisis of a doubt of self, basically throughout the film. And the costumes were amazing. The acting was amazing. I love Kate Blanchett. And this moment where she's like, I too can command the wind, sir.
I never saw it.
Battleship Spain Bath. You gotta try me. She's great. She's really great.
Well, she's just great in general.
She's great in general. She's Kate Blanchett, you guys. Ooh, Carol is on Netflix. Random thing I just saw this morning. Okay.
That's something I want to see.
And again, I love when I find out stuff like this because it's stuff that we don't notice, but we subconsciously, it affects how we view the film. Director Shakur Kapoor filmed Elizabeth's personal time like bathing in a circular set to reflect the infinite questioning of her mind, aspiring to a different kind of freedom and exploration. He filmed her professional moments like in the throne room or in cabinet meetings in rectangular rooms that enclosed her with straight walls and corners. So you see her kind of spinning thoughts and, thinking about everything that's going on in her life in a circular motion. But then when
she's got to get to work.
Yes, she's got to get to work. She's like, boom, straight on. So she was one of the most powerful women in history, one of the longest reigns. And now, our current Queen Elizabeth.
She's the baby of Boleyn.
She's the baby of Boleyn. Yes. Oh, that's
Boleyn's baby.
Boleyn's baby. I didn't even think about that, really. I believe she was 3 when Anne Boleyn was beheaded.
Beheaded?
Beheaded.
Perfect.
When Boleyn was beheaded, she was like 3 years old. And the story of how she came to power was just fascinating because no one wanted her on the throne. Everyone was like, your mother was a witch. She didn't deserve to be queen. She was a bastard. And everyone was just like hating on her. And she still like came into her own. She was like, no, fuck you guys. I'm the queen. I'm going to rule. And she was one of the best rulers they had. And that's why they call her reign the Golden Age, because it was an age of Shakespeare and growth, and they beat Spain and everything was like incredible. Yeah.
I have one of those little biography books that my kids read. It's like, I don't know, 10 chapters. It's probably about a little over 100 pages. I read it to them, and we have one on Elizabeth the first. So we've read it.
Cool.
It's good. I've learned a lot. I've learned more than they've learned, I think.
Nice.
Or maybe, who knows? Maybe my daughter will teach me more later.
I remember there's a little, now I don't know if this is the same book, but it's supposed to be, it's like a fake journal. So they write a book as if it's the journal of a young Queen Elizabeth. So when she was just the princess, when she was like, I think from age 10 to maybe 15. So this isn't a real journal that they found. It's just like, what would she have written about? What was going on at this time?
Okay.
So we know that when she was a young girl, Henry VIII, who of course we've seen in Anne Boleyn, the other Boleyn girl, the Tudors and everything, was very temperamental. and would just on a whim decide things. He was very, just aggressive and was a charming man, but he had highs and lows. And so
Okay.
I think he banished her from the castle for like years when she was young because she did something to upset him or
Oh,
said something in court or whatever. And so he was like, be gone with you. So she was sent away for like 3 years or something when she was like a little girl.
boarding
So
school.
yeah, boarding
know.
school, but it's basically like a castle prison or something. So he goes, no, you can't have fun at court anymore. You're gone.
Aw.
You're behaving badly. But instead of sending her to bed without supper, he sent her to like
Who
a
knows?
prison castle. You don't know, but
It's
yeah,
unfortunate.
it's I got it one of those it's like Costco, but we have it's called
Okay.
Sam's Club
Oh yeah, Sam's Club.
in Texas. And so they have random things there all the time. And in the middle they'll have like Levi jeans
And
and like dog
books.
beds and like books and everything.
Mhm.
So I used to get those kinds of books there when my parents were like shopping for giant boxes of goldfish or something. I don't know. Big groceries.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with a movie where it's a woman of history. I'm gonna
Mhm.
go with someone that's still alive, but the event was historical to us now,
Mhm.
which is Erin Brockovich. So
Ah.
it's the David and Goliath story about how one woman brought down I don't know, PG&E. I have no idea. I can't
I
remember
forgot.
who it was that she brought down, but some big corporation at the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And performed by Julia Roberts. Aaron Eckhart as like the next door boyfriend. I
Yes.
liked him. She had,
Mhm.
I like the story that she's a single mom, has these two little kids that she's trying to raise,
Mhm.
and she just needs a paycheck. And she's like, I'm really good at researching or whatever.
Mhm.
And I just like that Julia Roberts was able to win an Oscar for this film, the first Oscar that she has received. And there's not much else I want to say about Erin Brockovich. Like, I'm sure I could say more if we like dove into it and like really researched it. But I
Mhm.
just remember seeing it. I remember thinking like, I I like this character. I like this woman because she's like no nonsense and she's not going to change herself for anyone
Mhm.
else. And there's that moment where they're like going to fire her because they're
Mhm.
like, well, you didn't show up to work. She's like, I've been out like getting researching and stuff.
Right.
She was doing way more than a paralegal probably would ever do.
Right. Right.
Because most would probably just stay in the office and do their
Mhm.
stuff there and allow the lawyer to be doing all the research. But she
Right.
was like, well, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I applaud her and I like her story. I'm glad that we got to see her story. Albert Finney, thank you, Clint, is amazing as the main lawyer
Yeah.
that she is the paralegal for.
Mhm.
And there you go.
I like her
There you
moments
go.
with her kids. She
Hmm.
was very natural with the children, and you could tell that they liked her. And so, like, she's having not a fight, but this is when Albert Finney had fired her, and then he comes back and is like, "Listen, I realized the research you've done. I got some calls back from people. You obviously were working hard for us, so why don't you come
Hmm.
back?" And then, but he's like, you need to show up. You need to keep in contact with me. I'm drawing a line. And then the baby like goes, "Ah," and she goes, and Julia Roberts goes, "He's drawing a line," and like talks to the baby. And then she like touches her. They're just having like a little moment, like they're really interacting with each other. And like she gets a car, and the baby's like, "I want that," and Julie goes, "I want that too," and she's just like real natural with it. I loved her with the kids. It was good.
Mhm. I also like that the real Erin Brockovich is in the movie. Thank you,
Yes,
Janine. Yes, she was the
yes,
waitress
she was.
in the diner.
Hmm.
So there you go. There you have it. That's what I've got for you.
All right.
So we went from Thor, we linked it to movies featuring Natalie Portman with the other Boleyn girl, as well as Jackie. Off of Jackie, you went to historical stories of women in history with Elizabeth the Golden Age. Is
Yes.
that what it's called?
Hmm.
And I did Erin Brockovich.
There you go.
And now we're going over to the other Boleyn girl. I'm doing movies, and in the chat, after I say my link, please give Stacy some ideas. Movies that feature beheadings. Not
Ooh,
beheadings,
not
but
beheadings.
beheadings.
Not
Movies that
beheadings.
feature beheadings. I'm going with Bram Stoker's Dracula, which came out November
Nice,
13th,
nice.
1992. The centuries-old vampire Count Dracula comes to England to seduce Jonathan Harker's fiancée, Mina Murray, and inflict havoc in the foreign land. This is directed by Francis Ford Coppola, written by Bram Stoker, and then adapted by James V. Hart, starring Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, Keanu Reeves. Let me get my other page of notes because I stapled it incorrectly today. The budget was $40 million and it made $215.9 million at the box office. It won 3 Oscars: Best Costumes, hey, you like that, Best Sound Effects, and Best Makeup. It was also nominated for Best Art and Set Direction. And at the first cast meeting called by Francis Ford Coppola, all of the principal actors, he had them read the entire Bram Stoker novel out loud to get a feel for the story.
Wow.
According to Anthony Hopkins, it took 2 days to complete that.
Wow.
How boring would that be?
So boring. I hate reading out loud.
I know.
Be
and not boring. A script, not like you're trying to get into character. Although they probably read it like all character-y because they're actors and that's kind of what you do. But anyways, Gary Oldman hired a singing coach to help him lower his voice an octave to help him give Dracula a more sinister quality. And I think that's pretty interesting that you would hire a coach to change your octave. I mean, I get hiring a dialect coach, but to change the octave, that's pretty specific. And I wonder if when they say he hired someone, like did he, like Gary Oldman, hire the person, or did like the production hire the person?
That's what I'm always curious about too.
Because I would love it if he did it and like used his own money so that he could like better his performance.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, how much do you expect from the production? How much do you put on yourself?
I think it's
those things.
It's like however good a job you want to do, you know? I don't know. Because Natalie, we talked about this when we talked about Black Swan, but Natalie Portman hired and trained and paid for everything herself for all the dancing because she knew the budget was small. And so she was like, I want to do a really good job. And, you know, obviously it won her the Academy Awards. So there you go.
Francis Ford Coppola has openly criticized his own reasoning for casting Keanu Reeves as Jonathan Harker. According to him, he needed a young, hot star that would connect with the girls. And I believe that Keanu Reeves was like, this was definitely not my best performance. I had a lot going on. A lot of movies were happening at the same time as this, and I did not do so great.
I love his performance in this because he is performing it like a California surfer dude would in a play for high schools. Bram Stoker's. What is it?
Bram Stoker.
Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's how he portrays this. So he like literally still has a little hey California thing going on, but like is trying to do a British accent on top of it.
Maybe Gary Oldman should have been like, here, use my dialect coach.
Yeah,
let's do this together.
Here you go, boo boo. You take this.
I guess Francis Ford Coppola wanted Johnny Depp, but the studio didn't think he was as much of a heartthrob.
That is crazy.
So they wanted more of a heartthrob, whatever that means. Whatever. I don't know.
When he's like
Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder did not get along at all during filming.
Really?
Apparently.
Why?
I don't know.
What do they say?
It just says the rest of the cast was shocked because the two had been friendly during rehearsals. Then they came back from break in the schedule, seemingly hating each other with no indication given then or later as to what happened.
Oh,
something behind the scenes.
Doesn't that it makes me very frustrated when I don't know why actors hate each other. Like I want to know their personal lives and I want to know why they really pissed each other off. Oh, that's okay though. That's okay.
But I like that they can push that back while they do all these scenes and stuff together. And Francis Ford Coppola is known for like doing like 30-to-1 takes. So it's like great. Now I'm gonna have to do like I'm gonna have to do this 30 times over because we have to get one thing right with this person that I'm really disliking right now. Anyways.
Someone in the chat said Keanu connects with everyone, not just girls. Agreed.
That's probably it.
Agreed.
That's probably it. Thank you. So there you go. Movie with a beheading. Bram Stoker's Dracula. You got something for us.
I got something. Someone in the chat, please remind me who mentioned Marie Antoinette. And so this is directed by Sofia Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's daughter.
Well, what do you know? Another connection.
Oh, and again. No. Um, Again, I love period pieces, you guys. I
Costumes.
Costumes, so many costumes. I dragged my dad to the movie theater to see this with
Mhm.
me. And I remember loving this film because they really created their own version. And
It was Byron.
oh,
Thank you,
Byron,
Byron.
thanks, Byron Boo Boo. They created their own version of what Marie Antoinette acted like, looked like.
Mhm.
Everything else was very much of the times, like all the set pieces and everything, but they chose to, like, they had American accents.
I was gonna say, did they romanticize this in terms of kind of like a Romeo plus sign Juliet? Like was it kind
Um,
of like that or
a, a little bit, but mainly just with the accents and some of
okay?
the music.
Because I
So
only saw
mhm,
maybe 2 or 3 scenes of this
mhm.
film. I don't
Because
know why.
they, like, the palace looked beautiful, and they all the stagecoaches, all the costumes, everything of like that was of the times. But like her and Jason Schwartzman were, they had like American accents, and
Mm,
they portrayed their relationship in a really sweet way, as in they were these two kids. She was like 15 years old when she became princess, the
yeah.
Dauphin, whatever, of France. She married into that family, and then the king dies suddenly, and so they're all of a sudden king and queen. They're like, oh shit, we're like, and this was a few years after they got married. They're like, we're 18, we're too young, we don't know what we're doing. And so she is really this young girl that has kind of been forced into the situation, but she was apparently, according to all reports, and no one knows if any of this is absolutely true, but you just go off of it, very beautiful, very charming, very outgoing. She loved lavish parties, and she was like partying and gambling up until the night she was pregnant, or until the night she gave birth.
Okay. Oh.
And so she really was like, she didn't know how to rule, how to be a queen, but she knew how to be young and have fun. And she always had her friends over. She had a little palace that was like her weekend retreat that she spent a lot of
Yeah.
time at, so she did her parties there, and had private plays and everything. So she didn't want to rule, she didn't want to be in charge of anything. She just knew how to be charming and have fun. And
Hmm.
so that's all she knew. So then everyone portrayed her as this horrible person who was like spending lavishly while the whole country was starving. And she probably, I mean, maybe she knew a little bit of that, maybe she was a little naive, but I don't think she was like evil, the whole let them eat
Yeah.
cake scenario, which is like a famous line that she probably didn't even say that. Like, I don't think that she knew anything that was seriously going on. She just kind
Yeah.
of lived her life.
Hmm.
So I loved the costume in this. There's a scene where they show her, it's like a
And
little try on, and
headpieces,
headpieces were
headdresses. I don't know what you
great.
call it.
They showed her, it's a little montage of her getting ready and shopping and eating and just being a lavish spender, and they do a camera like rise or whatever, so
Mm-hmm.
it like raises and it shows how high her head is, and she's like, it's not too much, is it? And it's like way too much, but it's like just enough for her.
Is it like Marge Simpson?
It's literally like Marge Simpson, and she has like birds and flowers, and it's a giant purple blue thing, and it's great. Fucking love it. I would love to dress like that every day. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Oh
Sounds
my
like a
gosh.
lot
It'd
of
be the
work. You need
best.
an assistant for that.
I do.
Definitely.
I do. But I really liked it because it showed what royal marriages were like back in the day. You were
Hmm.
forced to, or, it was the best deal. It's like getting a good job or something if you have a good match, to marry this person that you don't love, you don't know, you don't know what they're like or
Hmm.
what it's gonna be. And so you had to learn to have a relationship with them, and you had to say, okay, maybe we're not in love, but we are married. Let's have kids. Let's solidify ourselves as the rulers, and let's have, at least have a friendship, a trust with each other.
Yeah.
And they showed that really well in small moments in the film, when they try and comfort each other and be there for each other. They weren't maybe attracted to each other, but they had to make it work. And they did, and they had a family together, and they truly did have affection for each other. So I liked that portrayal of royal marriages and what they were probably really like, because they would, all the members of the royal court would have to witness everything so that it could be like proven. So like when you had sex for the first time on your wedding night, everyone would be there. They would like go in bed and draw the curtains, but
Sounds
everyone would
awful.
be outside like listening, and then they had to open it up and like prove to the doctor, yes, we had sex. Because then that means that your marriage is, what's it called? What's the C word?
Official?
No, what's the C word? Consummated?
Yes.
I was about to say consecrated. That's not it. Consummated. And also when she gave birth, everyone had to be in the room. So that way it proves, yes, I was actually pregnant. Yes, I was, this baby is mine. It is the royal baby. Because, like, you could just stuff a pillow in there if you wanted and take some random baby and be like, oh, I had the baby. And then it saves your place. Because if you don't perform well, if you don't, consummate the marriage, if you don't get pregnant and, you don't do your duty, then you're out, which happened with some of Henry VIII's wives. So yeah.
Does that mean like every time you have sex, you have to have people
Not every
like kind of
time.
quasi witness it?
Not every time, but the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is just
because that was a plot in the film, was that they didn't have sex for, I don't know, like a year or 2 years or something, because they were kids, and it was rumored that he was gay, but you don't know. Maybe he was, they kind of portray it like, well, we're not sure, but they were like, and her mom was like, listen, you're not doing your job here. You are the wife of a prince. You guys have to consummate this, otherwise they'll kick you out, because it's not official. You could have the marriage annulled technically if you don't consummate it. So you need to protect yourself, because she was a foreigner in this land. She was like Austrian or something, I think. And so they were like, you're not, nothing's set in stone yet until you do your duty. So you need to like get this done, girl. So
let's get this done.
get
We
this
went
shit
from Thor, then we linked it to Natalie Portman featured films with the other Boleyn girl as well as Jackie. Off of Jackie, we linked it to historical women, basically stories about historical women in history, and did Elizabeth the Golden Age as well as Erin Brockovich. And then off of the other Boleyn girl, I hope you're looking up your Rocky scene. Off of the other Boleyn girl, I went to movies with beheadings, and I did Bram Stoker's Dracula, and you did Marie Antoinette. So there you go. One film, Thor. We linked it to 6 other films.
Yes.
In a random way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Now we're going to link it to Kevin Bacon, because 6 Degrees of feature film, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon was in Wild Things with Jimmy Starr, who was in Thor. So simple. That's how simple it is. Jimmy Starr played an Asgardian guard, so he wasn't like any, big name there. And now we are going to ask,
yes,
would Thor be better with Rocky? Would Thor be better with Sylvester Stallone as Rocky, as
Loki?
Okay, as Loki.
So this
performed by Stacey Howard.
Performed by myself. This is going to be a simple line, but delivered with such
gusto,
emotion and gusto. So Loki, Rocky, is seeing his brother and yelling at him. How dare you? I never wanted the throne. I only ever wanted to be your equal. Yo! That's it.
Just wanted to be equal.
He just wanted to be his equal.
Sad.
I never wanted the throne. Now I kind of want to watch.
I think you kind of did, Loki. I think you did.
He did a little bit.
That's okay.
Maybe he didn't want that throne. He just wanted a throne.
A throne. All right, Stacey. That does it for our show today.
Oh, goodness.
Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Stacey O'Howard.
Excellent. Yes. I want to say thank you to all that joined us today in the chat. I see Laura, Neil, Elise, Clint. I'm sure some other people's names will start to pop up as soon as people know that I'm saying that they're here. It's kind of like, did you ever watch Romper Room? Scrouge77. Did you ever watch Romper Room? At the end, she had this like wand thing, and then she'd say the kids' names.
No, what's Romper Room? I don't know.
Okay, it's like it's kind of like a Mr. Rogers-esque like show, but she had all these kids. It was kind of like a little classroom. Janine, thank you for joining us, Byron. And she would say all the names of the kids that were at the Romper Room, and my mom would always be like, "Oh, she said your name. You were out of the room, but she said it.
She knows you."
I'm like, "Yay, she said my name." It's totally not true, but thanks. So thank you all for joining us. You guys can find me all day, every day on Twitter at Miss Movies. And tomorrow, live movie fights. I'm going to be there.
Wow!
Waiting for the questions to come in.
Haven't received the
We'll see.
questions yet, huh?
Haven't gotten them yet. So just waiting. Just waiting.
It'll be good. It'll be a good time.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.